Hello everyone, this is Bradley. Welcome to the third episode of this beginner series on geometry nodes. Here we start with a very basic setup for today's demonstration. You can take this as a small test and try to recreate the entire file. I explained the workspace layout and how to create sockets on the group input node in the first episode. I also explained how to create reroutes and labeling in the second episode. This file before and after the tutorial is also available to download for free, in case you want to follow along or check the diagram created at the end of the tutorial. In the last episode, we discussed important shortcuts. If you are not yet familiar with all of them, you can always check the screencast keys in the bottom left corner, showing my clicks and shortcuts. Today's topic is attributes and fields. In geometry nodes, these refer to properties of our geometry. For example, Vertex Group, weight painting, eevee maps, and so on. Often, people use the terms attributes and field interchangeably to refer to these kinds of properties in general. But of course, they can be broken down into something more specific. There are two kinds of attributes. One is called a named attribute. The other is called anonymous attributes. If you search named attributes, you will find at least two nodes with relevant names. We have named attribute and the store named attribute. You can usually see named attributes at the top of the spreadsheet, where we have position, sharp face, and eevee map. If you click the text box of the store named attribute node, you will find no results. But as soon as you insert it into the link, you will see the relevant attributes we discussed earlier. Alternatively, the named attribute node doesn't require insertion to access these attributes because it reads directly from the group inputs. If you remove the geometry from our group inputs, you will find no results. The reasons behind this phenomenon will be elaborated on in the next episode. As mentioned, vertex groups are also named attributes because you are literally giving a name to your vertex group, and you can rename it however you want. Here, I will select some vertices on my subdivided cube to assign the group. Then you can find this group in the drop-down list on both named attribute nodes. You can use viewer to confirm the selection we did. Named attribute node is one way to use vertex group in geometry nodes. Alternatively, if you have values exposed on the group inputs reviewed in the modifier, you can use the plus icon in the modifier panel, which turns the value into a text box and allows you to use it in the same way as the named attribute node. Note that right now my viewer is showing black values only, and the search has no results found for some reason. But if you type AAA manually and hit enter, the viewer will review the correct vertex group selection. On the other hand, since many attributes are widely used, the developers created dedicated nodes for them. For example, we have position, normal, index, ID, and the curve tangent. Some of them may not strictly be named attributes, since they may not be directly available through the named attribute nodes. But these are very specific names for properties used somewhere in the system. For example, a mesh must contain normals to determine the surface angle for light reflection. In addition, there is one small but important concept related to the attributes that you may notice when using certain nodes. In this example, we have a set position node. The set position node literally sets the position of each point in our cube. Right now, it's not influencing the final result whether you mute it or not. If you check the tooltip of the position socket, you will see that its input is a field based on the position attribute. This means the node is already using the position attribute internally by default. If I output the position node into the socket, the result in the viewport does not change. However, if I plug a different attribute like normal into the socket, you will see it becomes immediately different. If I instead use a combine XYZ node, the cube completely disappears. Because all points collapse into a single point at this location of 0, 0, 0. As you will see from the spreadsheet, all positions are outputting zeros. We can also visualize this by using a mesh to points node. You will see all points sitting at the world origin. If I raise the z value in the combine XYZ node, the points move upwards, making it more obvious. So I hope this proves that the socket was already filled with the position attribute, even though we did not explicitly connect a position node. We usually call this an implicit attribute, meaning the socket is automatically prefilled with an attribute by the system. Before Blender 5.0, these sockets had a slightly different visual indicator. You could see a small hole in the diamond socket in the offset input, whereas the position sockets did not have this hole because an attribute was already filling it. A fully filled diamond indicated that the attribute was implicit. However, due to technical and design changes in Blender 5.0, this visual distinction has been removed. Now, most filled sockets appear as a filled diamonds, so we can no longer rely on socket appearance alone. We have to rely on node names, experience, and the tooltips to determine whether a socket is implicitly using an attribute or not. In fact, you may notice that meshed points nodes also uses the position attribute internally. Other nodes, such as the random value node, have IDs that obviously corresponds to the ID node. However, socket names can sometimes be misleading. For example, the noise texture node has a vector input, but internally it also uses the position attribute by default, as you see. So occasionally, when you encounter sockets that do not expose their values by default, you may want to check the tooltip to understand what's really happening under the hood. As these dedicated nodes and implicit attributes are commonly used, we don't always need to use store-named attribute and the named attribute. Working with them can also be a bit convoluted, because their workflow mostly appears in pairs. In this example, using the nodes we are already familiar with, I start with a eevee sphere node, store a random value attribute using the random value node, and then use named attribute node to pull this value and output it to the offset of set position. As a result, you will find each point has been offset or displaced randomly from our original sphere. It works. But imagine you have a very large node tree with countless operations, and every time you have to duplicate many of these pairs just to use some parameters. It sounds very inefficient. I even have a setup that mimics this situation with many store-named attributes and named attribute nodes in a single node tree. There are lots of names, and it's not immediately obvious the relationship between the storage and usage. We have AAA here, FFF here, CCC there. Reading the node tree becomes very difficult. Another issue with this workflow is that these named attributes stay with the geometry. If you check the spreadsheet, you can see the data expand significantly. Once you subdivide the geometry, there will be even more data. There will be even more data and rows. they actively take up disk space because the file has to store all these values, writing them down. Your file can grow from kilobytes to gigabytes because of them, and they do not function like a cache because you have to store them and process them during subdivision or other operations. At some point, you may want to remove them. If you are familiar with the node names, you may know there is a node called remove named attribute. Of course, we are not going to do that here because it will only add more chaos to this already complex setup. So, going back to our original example, is there a better workflow that avoids all these duplications? You may already recall the examples when I show the implicit attributes, where I directly connect a position node to the position socket. Why don't we do the same here? Instead of using a pair of named attribute nodes, we can directly connect the random value node to the offset socket. You will find that the result is comparable. So it works even if we do not have the named attribute pair. In this process, there's no named attribute involved. We call these anonymous attributes because we don't have a name and they are used right away. Personally, I often use attributes to refer to the named attributes and the field to refer to these anonymous attributes passed around in the node tree. In summary, named attributes are like weight on your body. They take up a memory and a file size and can slow things down. Anonymous attributes are like tools in your hands. You use them when needed, then put them down when you're finished. Once we finish using the random value in set position node, the system discards it, and you won't find any trace of it because there's no name attached. This means it won't affect any geometry modification process later on. Therefore, fields are more commonly used in geometry nodes. They are simple, clean, and often more hardware friendly. However, there are cases where named attributes is the better or even the only option. For example, as mentioned earlier, vertex groups are already named attributes from the beginning. If you set up a vertex group and want to use it, named attributes are the only way to do it, whether through nodes or the modify panel. Another common case is when you want to pass information to shaders. In that situation, you must store a named attribute for the render engine to read. Here I start with a grid, store a named attribute for the color of a noise texture, and assign material. An alternative method is to output the values to the group outputs, where you can assign a name in the modifier panel under output attributes. However, store named attributes workflow is generally preferred. In the shader editor for material, I can use the shader version of the attribute node. This one is quite old and lacks many advanced features nowadays, so you have to manually type the name you stored. And I will pass color to color. Now, we have the noise texture color passing from geometry nodes to the shader. Please be aware that ideally, you can name these color attributes however you want, as long as they are matching and recognizable to you. However, due to certain limitations, color is not working in Cycle. I won't go into detail here, but it's something to keep in mind that certain names are not available in Cycle, especially this color, because I think it will be common. Personally, instead of full descriptive names, I usually use single letters like C for color, especially without search. You don't want to spend too much time typing names. Although this is just an example, you may still want to ask, why do we do this instead of using the noise texture node directly in shader? It's important to know that shaders are always calculated after geometry nodes. You can pass information from geometry nodes to shader, but not the other way around. So if you are using a noise texture to drive animations or instancing and want to use the same result in the render, you may need to pass that information to the shader. And in motion graphics, obviously this is very common. There are more situations where store-named attribute is preferred or required. We will discuss them accordingly when the situation comes. In real life, it's used a lot. Nevertheless, I want to emphasize that you're discouraged from using it for simple tasks given all downsides it can have, unless you have your personal preferences. At the end, I want to discuss a shortcut that may help in extreme cases where many pairs become confusing. If you want to find where an attribute is stored or used, you can press Ctrl+F. Unlike the regular Shift-A search, Ctrl+F search was originally used to search nodes in a large node tree. For example, you can search for store-named attribute, and you will see many results. Clicking an item will highlight and select it. If it's not in your view, it will lead you to it. With recent updates in Blender 5.0, Ctrl+F also supports searching text boxes. So I can search AAA to find where it's stored and used. I can search GGG and find it's stored, but not really used anywhere. Furthermore, it can help you search group input sockets, especially if you have many group nodes scattered in the node tree for control and organization. Here, if I try to search this Boolean socket, it seems not working because none of these inputs are actually used by the node tree, so the search disregards them. If I connect it to somewhere and then search it again, you will be able to find it. If I add another linkage, then the search will reveal both of them. So you will know clearly where the input is used and how many times it is used. So that's it for now about named attributes and anonymous attributes. Keep in mind that the existing items you find in the named attributes, along with the dedicated nodes, may still not cover the full list of geometry properties in Blender. Nevertheless, for beginners, knowing these few attributes should be enough for now. In the next episodes, we will dive deeper into fields and talk about capture attributes node. Meanwhile, I hope you are still following the homework of remembering node names, just like memorizing vocabulary when learning a new language. Again, you only need to skim through the names